so here are the notes for section 6.4. There's actually only going to be one part, so this is going to be the only video for 6.4. Yay! So let's talk about what is 6.4 over. So we have learned so far about how to create proportions, solve for them, blah, blah, blah. How we can use proportions to talk about similar polygons, so determining if polygons are similar, and if they are similar, how can we use that to either solve for a side, find a scale factor, figure out perimeter of a polygon. So now we're going to talk about how can we prove triangles are similar. There's going to be three different ways. There's going to be AA, SSS, and SAS. Okay, first way, and this is the only way we're going to learn about today, is what we call AA similarity postulate. Okay, now what does the AA represent? Well, let's kind of go to our lovely vocabulary here. AA means angle-angle. So this is the angle-angle similarity postulate. What that means is if we can prove that two pairs of corresponding angles are congruent, then we can prove that two polygons are similar, okay? So we just have to show two out of the three pairs of angles are congruent. That's it, okay? So that kind of makes it nice, and you know there could be some different answers here, so that's okay. Now let's go over example 1. So we are using the AA similarity postulate. Here we're going to determine whether the triangles are similar. And if they are, oh, look at that little phrase, we need to write a similarity statement. You're going to be seeing that quite a bit, so make sure you know and understand what that is. Now, it does tell us explain your reasoning, but we should know there's only one way, right, we can prove if these are similar, but we need to show that. Okay, so that means if we're using the AA similarity postulate for these two triangles, we need to pick two out of the three pairs to show that they are congruent. Okay, now let's talk about maybe having corresponding angles. Now there should be one corresponding pair of angles that pops out right at you. Okay, if you don't know, it looks like it's going to be B and E. Why do they look like they're corresponding angles? Well, look at what they have. They have that little box, right, or the little square. What does that square indicate about that angle? Well, it indicates that it's 90 degrees. So if I know that angle B is 90 and angle E is 90, that means they are the same exact measurement. And if they're the same exact measurement, they are congruent. So I'm going to write that down because we want to show evidence here. Evidence saying that they are similar or not similar. So we know angle B is congruent to angle E. So we already have one of our two pairs. Okay, we're good. So now let's figure out the others. Okay, so I have now angle C. That looks like to be 38 degrees. Now, if we look at any of the other two angles on the second triangle, F and D, I don't see a 38 degrees. I see a 52 and a blank. So could be possible that F would be the corresponding. So we would have to see about that. Okay. Then let's go to angle D. Right, that's 52 degrees. And I don't see that in our first triangle. So it is possible that A might be it. We don't know. So this is where it can be different. Either we can, there's two angles we can solve for. Either we can solve for angle A or we can solve for angle F. And this is up to you, okay? If you want to go for A, you can. If you want to go for F. I'm actually going to show both ways because I think the notes should have more of that opportunity. Now, that means you don't have to do both. Like in your homework, don't have to do both. But I'm just doing it because these are notes and I want to give you more information than you need. Okay, let's flip angle A. Now, let's go back to the idea of triangles. If we add up all the angles, right, in a triangle, how much do they add up to? Hopefully, you said 180. Okay, so we are going to do, so for measure of angle A, that's what we're trying to find, we are going to do 180 minus, we got 38, minus 90, okay? So you can do that in your calculator, that's fine, blah, 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 okay? So when you do that, it looks like we should get 52. Okay? Is that the same as maybe one of our other angles? I think it should. It looks like it's the same as angle D. Because they are the same measurement, that means they are congruent. So here, you could just stop and say that angle A is congruent to angle D. And because we showed that two pairs of corresponding angles are congruent, we can say that these two polygons are similar. Now let's say you didn't go for angle A. Instead, you try to figure out what's angle F. Let's try that. I just want to show you all the ways you can do this. Let's measure up angle F. Now let's get a triangle, right? We have 180 and we subtract it, in this case from 52 and then also 90, okay? If we did that and put in your calculator, I'm fine with that, we should get 38. If angle F is 38, isn't that the same as angle C? So we can also say that angle C is congruent to angle F. So you can also show that idea, okay? But all that matters is that we have two pairs of corresponding angles that are congruent. Okay, so because, right, we showed it, that means yes, that these two are similar. So I'll say triangles because that's what they told us. So triangles are similar. By AA. Okay, so they didn't explain why, reasoning, and kind of like our work is also an explanation. Now our last thing, it says we need to write a similarity statement. Okay? So we have triangle. Now I would like, if anytime we have a triangle, go and draw the triangle because you can do it. Otherwise, you just use the letters. Okay, now triangle. I like to go in order of alphabet, so I'm going to say A, B, C. It's similar. Now this is where you got to be careful. Okay, the angles need to align. So angle A, what is it congruent with? Well, it's congruent with angle D, so that needs to come first. B is our second letter. What is that congruent to? That is E, so that has to be our second. And then C, and this is kind of like a process of elimination, that has to go with F, okay? So this kind of would be our answer with everything else kind of being the explanation. Think of this kind of more like, in English class when you write a essay, you have your thesis, which kind of that's our answer, right? Our answer is our thesis, and then you got backup information, okay? The backup information is the work that you show, okay? So think of it like that. Okay, so now let's go to example 2. This case, we're not determining that they are congruent, okay, on example 2, but we are showing. So we already know that the triangles are similar. We already know that. We just need to show the work or the backup information saying that they are, okay? Okay, so for part A, we have triangle TUV and triangle HJK. So we need to just show that two pairs of corresponding angles are congruent, and then that's what we show. Okay, once again, I love to kind of color coordinate, do shapes. I highly suggest that because I think it makes it a ton easier to know what angles go with what angles, what sides go with what sides. Okay, notice that for angle T, that's 115 degrees. If we look in our second triangle, oh, I see H. That's also 115 degrees, right? So because these two have the exact same angle measurement, that means they are congruent. So I can say that angle T is congruent to angle H. I already have one pair. I'm halfway done, okay? But now let's look at the other angles. So we see UV and JK, they don't have any numbers, okay? This is where we kind of might need to know some are different types of triangles, all right? Notice that on both of these, that they got little tick marks, right? Remember, tick marks also indicate congruency. So really this means that the sides are congruent. So UT and TV, those sides are congruent, and JH and HK are congruent. Now, I don't know if you guys can remember, when we see that two sides of a triangle are congruent, right? What type of triangle is this? You might remember, or if you need to look up. Okay, well, these are what we call isosceles triangles. Hopefully you guys remember that. If not, definitely will look that up. Hopefully I'm also spelling this right. Okay, isosceles triangles. When you see that two sides are congruent of a triangle, they are isosceles. What that means is that the base angles are going to be congruent. Okay? These are congruent. These are going to be congruent. So now, all we have to really see is if actually the corresponding angles are going to be the same. And some of you probably can already tell, okay? But just hold on, we need to show it. That's the thing, you gotta show it. So we gotta show the math. Okay, so we know that angles add up to 180, okay? So if I do 180 minus 115, that will give us, and of course you can just show it. There you go. Or do it in your calculator. We get 65. Now, U is not 65 and V is not 65. Because we did that math, that would add up more than, 180. What they're saying is that U and V together are 65. So we know that U and V, right, are the same. They're going to be the same. What can we divide by to get each of those angle measurements? Hopefully, you guys did too. So when we do that, we get 32.5. Now notice on our JHK triangle, we would do exactly the same. We would do 180 minus 115, and then take 65 divided by 2 because the two angles are the same. So U is 32.5, V is 32.5, J is 32.5, and K is 32.5. So that means all those angles are congruent. So now what you can say is that just another pair, right, are going to be congruent. So let's just pick, I don't know, angle U is congruent. Now be careful, we can't say angle U is congruent to angle V in this case, though they are congruent, but the reason being is we're trying to show that the triangles are similar. So I have to use U and then one of the other angles from the other triangle. So either I can say J or I can use K. So in this case, we're going to say J, because the reason being, let's kind of go back up to where they put us. We have angle or triangle TUV and triangle HJK. Notice U is in the second slot, J is in the second slot. So they do indicate that those two should be the corresponding angles. And so this, basically what we have here, is just showing and saying what are the two pairs of corresponding angles. Okay? Okay, we're going to try one more, and that's going to be part B. I'm going to scroll down a little bit, because I will need room. So once again, we are showing here that the triangles are similar, okay? So we need to just show that two pairs of corresponding angles are congruent. Now notice, we kind of have a triangle within a triangle. I'm going to try to make sure to color code this. We got this, and then I'm going to do this. Okay, so I got green dotted and the blue. There's our two big triangles. Okay, now you will also see that there are arrows, meaning these two lines are parallel. This is where we're going to have to talk about the transversal. Okay, yeah, it's probably been a very long time since you talked about that. But anytime you have arrows with lines, and then there's like other sides that can, let's say, cross it, that's what we have as what we call the transversal. Okay, so this is where you have your alternate interior, alternate exterior, all those type of angles that you learned before. You might need to just look up again. It's been a while. Okay, so what we can say is we can say kind of like the corresponding angles. Those are going to be congruent. Okay, so that means angle L and angle P, they are congruent. And we can say the same thing with angle M and angle Q. And really we can just stop there, okay? But let me write those. So we can say angle M is congruent to angle Q. I'm going to write Y because hopefully this kind of jogs your memory. Now, in like a homework assignment, you won't have to. All you have to say, or like just do some things on the picture to show, and just say like angle M is congruent to angle Q. You don't have to say by why they are congruent, okay? But I'm giving it to you because I know it's been a while since you guys talked about like corresponding angles, alternate interior, alternate exterior, all that stuff. And I would make sure maybe looking those things up. Okay, L and P are going to be the same thing. So angle L is congruent to angle P because by corresponding angles. They are corresponding angles, okay? And this is only true, because you guys might get confused with this. This is only true because two of the lines are parallel. And we know they're parallel because they have those like little arrows. Hopefully I'm spelling parallel correct. If I am not, excuse me, because I am not I'm not very good at spelling, okay? I don't know. Okay, that's probably not the correct spelling, but you can figure it out. So anytime you have arrows on two lines and then there's lines that intersect them, then that's basically our transversal line, and lines are parallel, okay? And that's where you can do corresponding, alternate interior, alternate exterior, etc. Now, we could be done right there. That's great. I do want to show you one more pair of congruent angles, so you kind of can just see it. The other pair is going to be at N. I want to make sure these are nice. Notice that both of the triangles share that angle, okay? So both, basically LMN and PQN have the same angle, okay? Because they are basically the same angle, they are congruent. And what we call this is the reflexive property, meaning that two things share the same thing, okay? So in this case, two triangles share the same angle, okay? Now here, I like doing lovely colors. When you are showing, you only have to pick two out of three to show angles are congruent and showing that the polygons are similar, okay? I just like to give you more information to make it a little bit easier for you guys, okay? Okay, now you might see that there's more notes. I just want you guys to hold off on that. Go ahead, try those on your own. That's what I would like you guys to do. So you might see like 1, 2, 3, 4. Try those, do what you can on your own, and then we'll probably come back, discuss them, maybe go into breakout groups or go into groupings where we talk about them, all that stuff, okay? If you have any questions, make sure you definitely contact me. I know this can get a little bit confusing because now we're not dealing with just numbers. It's more the idea of proving things or showing things. So definitely if you have questions, contact me. Okay, see you later, guys.